Hey, welcome everyone as we do it each and every Friday. I'd like to say live, but I'll break the code. This is being recorded because I'm on an airplane right now. But welcome to the Town Hall Academy. Great topic today, coaching CEOs to the next level. I'm excited about this. Carm Capriato here, the pioneer of automotive aftermarket podcasts. This is your best kept secret to personal networking and for sharing with your people and creating a kind of lunch and learn webinar. Glad to have you here. We're coming to you from the Remarkable Results Radio podcast studio, also commonly known as the Carm Cave. A lot of my favorite stuff back behind me. Got a great panel. How would you like to meet them? Wow, look at this group. Whew. Mike Bennett, coach.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Great, man. A coach at ATI and shop owner of Mike's Cars, Gettysburg, PA, with wife Shelly. How's Shelly?
Shelly's doing absolutely fantastic. They always say that the better half is really better, and in this case, it's really true.
Well, I've had Shelly on the show before, and she's a dynamo, and hopefully one day I could get down to Gettysburg. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's 8-9 hours from where I am. But
we'd love to have you down. Head on down.
Yeah, great to have you here, Mike. Dan Garlock's here, President, CEO of Silver Lake Auto. Hello, Dan.
Hello, everybody.
I remember interviewing your brother Darren a few years ago. Good to have you here now. And Scott Brown, Cardinal Shell, Springfield, Virginia. Hey, Scott.
What's going on, Carm? Thanks for having us on.
It's the East Coast, Scott Brown.
The original.
Yeah, maybe you're a few years older. Hey, again, guys, glad to have you here. If you're with us on social media, please check in with your city. Give us a like. That would be kind of so cool. And of course, always share this stuff. Hey, I want to stop for a minute and thank our partners who bring you this episode. Here's something to think about. How often do your advisors play phone tag? Every ring, every voicemail, it's time ticking on a stall job. Shopware's digital communication is really as easy as the customer clicks yes. Find out more at getshopware.com. Hey, do you lie awake at night wondering why your competitors have hundreds of 5-star reviews, but you only have a few? The 2 p.m. wake-up call? Well, rest easy with Broadly. Broadly gets you more online reviews and more people coming to your shop. On the web at getbroadly.com/chat. Hey, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and thanks. Okay, look, I was with Mike back, I think in June, Mike, right, at Super Conference?
It was actually, yep. It might have been right at the end of May, but at some point in this blur and blaze of 2021, we were together, yes.
Thank you for reminding us all. Blurring blaze. I just, that's a huge takeaway, guys. The blurring blaze of 2021 as the world continues to change around us, and we don't know what to expect even tomorrow. Kind of reminds me of 2020. But I did a great interview with him, and it was all about, CEOs. And, Mike tells me, hey, I'm leading a CEO panel. And I said, hey, could you bring a couple of guys on and talk about this? So my curiosity, Mike, is I want to understand the value of a CEO-only leadership group, the dynamics that you're learning, guys, with this common focus, how it's helped you become a more decisive CEO, and why a move to a specialized group was essential to you and your business. Now, look at, Mike, I really want you to start, but I got to ask Scott and Dan something. I think it's really important. I'm sitting here. I like to think I have common sense, and I know there's a ton of 20 groups around. Mike, you probably lead a bunch of them, but what's the difference if the owners go to a typical 20 group versus sitting over here in a CEO group? Scott, Dan, what's the difference?
You will go first, Dan?
No, go ahead, Scott. You're the OG, I guess.
I would say the CEO group was it was amazing. I think mainly because I didn't know what I didn't know. And what I've said before is that with the mastermind, with the 20 group and with the coaching, eventually maybe I would fall into, KPIs and figure things out. this is all knowledge that there's no way I'd have found it on my own. And, it's the dynamics of just the CEO group have changed the relationships that not just that I have with my staff, but with the relationships in between, the people that are on the team. And I think honestly, it makes the knowing my role as CEO makes the regular coaching in 20 groups much, much more effective.
Dan, same with you.
Yeah, I'll echo Scott's view on that too. And it was just time for me to elevate to a different area, different space, and talk a different language. I found myself, I guess, getting frustrated with the level of growth that we were having, and I think that what my realization was, that frustration was that I needed to grow, and I needed to look in different places to help myself grow. And just being around, maybe not just automotive CEOs, but CEOs across other industries, allowed me to kind of elevate my knowledge, talk a different language, and get me the tools and resources that I could help lead my organization to never thought of visions and destinations. We've grown a ton in the last 2 years since doing this, and it's been an amazing journey to kind of go through, even during this period of time where things have been a little bit more roller coaster ride-ish for us. It's been pretty amazing to watch the growth from myself when I'm looking inwardly, but also my team around me as we're just elevating the whole organization.
I heard something, Mike, that Dan said, and that is that I heard from other CEOs. So you must be providing some outside resources for this team.
Yeah, absolutely. We really are. One of the things that we found is, the CEO mentality, is somewhat universal, but within an existing industry, within an existing vertical, one of the things that you run the risk of is becoming very pigeonholed in the conversations that you have, becoming very narrow and focused, because the industry is so common between the CEOs. Although our conversations are at a much higher level, much more forward-looking, much more visionary and strategic, they still are within a given vertical and industry. And one of the things that we've tried to do through this program is really broaden the perspective, right? By bringing in outside CEOs to bring in outside perspectives of how other industries and other verticals are able to think about business and think about planning and strategy and growth. And I think one of the things that it's done is created more diversity in thought with some of our CEOs. Dan mentioned several times, he uses the word elevate, and elevation is so incredibly powerful from the consideration of a CEO. And so anything that we can provide at a resource that begins to elevate the conversation and diversify the conversation, we feel just helps that much more broaden the scope, broaden the vision, broaden the, kind of open up the focal view, so to speak, of our CEOs, and create an opportunity to not just see the industry we're in, but really look at this from a business, organizational, broad economic point of view. It really gives a broader and a wider perspective as to, what we're able to see, rather than just getting so very caught in our niche, which tends to pull us very operational. So, we try and create as much exposure as we can.
It's making so much sense to me, guys, right now. I mean, I think we could end this show and actually have a huge takeaway. And my big takeaway right now, and I think you said this, Dan, company to person. So when you're with a 20 group, you're really talking about company KPIs, HR and all those things. And yeah, occasionally you probably walk away with, how can I be better? But if there's a entire group that is elevating, great word, CEOs, that ends up becoming the person, not the company.
Right. And that was really where I was early in the pandemic was looking at how can I elevate, how can I grow, how can I invest in myself. We were all stressed, didn't understand what was coming next. Even, we didn't know what was going to happen with their companies. And I knew that this was the time that I had to really double down on my own growth and and elevate so that I could lead my company and my people the best way possible. And if I didn't spend that time to invest in myself, how could my company and how could my people grow? And I would also feel like a hypocrite telling my people, you need to go to this training, that training, but I'm kind of sitting in my office, not growing myself at the same time. It was vitally important that I spend some time building me and talking a different language. I'll talk inspections, engagements, production all day long, but I needed to have deeper, richer conversations with the size that our company was growing to and the challenges that this company is facing in the next years to come. So I just needed to change the conversation and change the script a little bit. And the conversation with the CEOs inside of our group have allowed that to happen. It's been absolutely a amazing growth period for me in the last couple of years.
You guys are dropping all kinds of great bombs on me. The one that I just got from you, Dan, was called Building Me. And now I really get that whole CEO group meaning. Mike, did you need to go and get some extra special training in order to lead this group, or were you the guy who is the most qualified inside of ATI to lead this?
Well, I definitely don't know that I would characterize myself as the most qualified, but one of the things that I think makes a great CEO, one of the things that I think makes an even better program manager for our CEOs is curiosity, right? And the willingness to learn. I've spent the better part of a year and a half, trying to elevate, just as Dan said, kind of elevate myself, elevate my game, my understanding of business, of structures, of the roles at the top side of our organization, really trying to understand the impact places. We ATI and has invested in me in a great deal of training that specifically addresses this level of interaction, with our member shops, and we've had some phenomenal resources, dipping into some extra expertise not only within the CEO community, but within the peer group community. I've had the great fortune of working with Mr. Ben Griffin for the better part of a year now, and really trying to learn from him as well. Some of the secrets of really creating opportunities for our CEOs. To continue to elevate their game. So, as Dan and Scott have both talked about, education and self improvement and elevation of abilities. It happens at the facilitator and the program level as easily as it does at the peer level as well. So it's been a fantastic year for us all.
You have a waiting list to get in it?
Yeah, well, believe it or not, we actually do. So both Dan and Scott are part of our inaugural CEO group. We've actually launched our second CEO group, which had its initial meeting back in August and is deeply underway and kind of navigating the CEO path. And we have a bit of a waiting list of fledgling or CEOs to be, so to speak. This is quite honestly a program where it's not an everybody plays, everybody wins. You've got to have your business and your mindset in a particular place to really be successful and to really bring value, not only for yourself and your organization, but bring value and investment back into the group itself, which is one of the most important elements of this peer group. We have lots of ways that we interact, and I would certainly hope that both Scott and Dan, would be able to acknowledge or at least speak to the fact that, as all great groups, half the horsepower is the dynamic of the group itself and its ability to interact and have those very deep and powerful conversations. Conversations, quite frankly, that oftentimes can occur, back in the business, back in the organization. There's very few people that a CEO or the top end of an organization has for reference, just to be able to, bang off ideas and talk through concepts and struggles. So, it's a program that is definitely on the rise and growing, as more of our members and more of the industry begins to see the power again of this elevation that a CEO can make. The more demand we're starting to see for what it is we had the vision to push forward.
Go ahead, Scott.
No, I was just going to agree with Mike, and I spent a little bit of time last night thinking about why I enjoyed this group so much. And it was really a process, because the group, when we started, it's different than it is now. And we spent the first 6-8 months really, it was almost like parallel play with each other, like with kids, where we were just learning about ourselves. And that's always a pretty painful process, when you're looking into the mirror. And, but once that process was over, now it's just great to be in the room. And it's what I find is really interesting is that there'll be a piece of information that comes down, and to see how everybody uses that information differently. And it's not that one person is right and one person is wrong. It's just, we all have different situations. And I'd agree with Mike. I mean, the room is the key to the group right now. And it's it's been awesome, but it would have never evolved that way without the teaching and the growth of us, on a personal level. And so I just, thank you, Mike. I'm very grateful for everything that and Dan and everyone else in the group, because they've really made a huge difference in my life.
I heard the word "the room." And is it the dynamic of the room that brings so much value?
Well, I think yes. For example, I'm working in my regular 20 group on an idea that I picked up from one of the other guys in the CEO group, and he was fabulously successful with a remote service advising. We just throw that out there. And I'm doing it. It's going to look completely different in my shop than it did in his shop. But I know it's possible, Yeah. and I see these amazing things that the other people do. And then, oh my gosh, there's just so many more things that are possible that I would have not come up with on my own. It's just, when you don't know what's possible, it really limits you.
I want to add on to something that Scott said. Through this journey, for me to be more self-aware of my limitations and my strengths and my weaknesses, I didn't really spend a lot of time in the past looking at myself and being self-aware of how I could lead my company and lead my people. How this group and how this team and the room, as Scott calls it, has made me more self-aware of where I can grow and where I can influence at a greater rate, has really, for me, been one of the evolutions of my growth. Again, that's focusing back on building ourselves as CEOs, is understanding ourselves. The tools that we're talking about today that we're using have been absolutely amazing for us to get to that point, to be more self-aware.
Carm, I want to just jump in on that for just 1 second, if I can. And it's really, quite honestly, almost the primer that really kind of brought us forward with, understanding the need for this group. And, one of the things that I think is important, and I actually pulled this quote from probably one of the most successful CEOs that we've had in the modern economy. So for anybody that's heard the name Indra Nooyi, Indra Nooyi was the CEO for Pepsi, for the Pepsi-Cola Corporation from the early 2000s through, I believe, 2019. and she was fantastically successful. Rose to the board and ultimately served a little bit of time as, I believe, chairman of the board. But one of the quotes that she famously made in referencing, how important and the fact that great CEOs are always learning and growing and investing in themselves, she made a comment that you have to think about just a little bit. But she said the distance between number one and number two is always constant. If you want to improve an organization, you have to improve yourself. And by default, then the organization gets pulled up with you. This concept, and you've heard both Dan and Scott talk about it, in this self-reflection and this self-awareness of the ability to really invest in themselves and improve the quality and the level of their own personal knowledge, is all about elevating their role. But what the byproduct and the big win is as you elevate your role as a CEO, it creates the room for your organization to rise and elevate and grow below you. And I think that's the almost unintended positive consequence here, is that as we've seen our CEOs really elevate themselves, it naturally creates a vacuum in the organization that just elevates the entire organization. We don't realize, as shop owners and business owners, whether you're a standalone single location or even a multi-shop owner, that oftentimes our sheer presence in the organization, daily operations, kind of stifles the operations ability to self-perpetuate and grow. And it's really by, you know, having the mindset of individual growth and how can I change my role and elevate my touch points with my organization. In essence, what you're really doing is getting out of the organization's way and allowing it to elevate. Right, you put the oxygen back in the room, so to speak, and I think that's just a key concept to what we've tried to do, and why this program has been so necessary and so impactful, as you hear from Dan and Scott.
Yeah.
Is as they've grown individually, their organizations are almost exponentially raising below them, into that space at a rate faster than their ability to get out of the way sometimes. It's a really interesting and phenomenal dynamic to watch.
Thank you for that. Guys, are going to come back, keep some great talk going. I want to pay homage again to our great partners. Let's face it, technicians are your inventory of time, and it's the only inventory that expires every minute of every day. Maximize sales and speed to get the cars moving through your business a whole lot faster. Learn more at getshopware.com. Hey, what's one thing, excuse me, what's one thing the top automotive shops like Urban Auto Care have that sets them apart from the rest? Well, they've got hundreds of 5-star Google reviews, literally. And you could have that too on the web at getbroadly.com/chat. Guys, I love where this is going. Thank you so much. I've taken probably more notes here, and I'm a note taker, and I'm just trying to formulate what I'm hearing and how we can continue to stitch this great episode together. A couple of things, guys. The self-aware to me is EQ. I'm not sure if you guys have done EQ training, and that has been part and parcel to the group. And Scott, you and I did a great episode on COO. Again, all I'm hearing, Mike, is we lift the company and we create room. And obviously, Dan, I'm sure you have a COO, but it sounds like now there's room to build that COO. And one other thing, quickly, I did an episode on a remote virtual service advisor. Was episode 621, just for points of reference. And I'm telling you, I agree with you. I think it is an incredible next technology step for us, customer service step. So, guys, let's jump into the fact that if it's all self-aware, Dan, where did you end up learning more about yourself?
Well, I like to call them tests. Might call them assessments, but a lot of different level of assessments that we have been brought to us to kind of give us a better overview of how we see ourselves, how our team views us, and that was one of the one of the big tools that we use, but I think more of a constant conversation that I've been having through our coaching sessions with Mike, through my team, being more vulnerable around the team, building that relationship with the team, asking them, continually asking them for feedback on how am I doing, how am I leading, what would you like to see me do more of, what would you like to see me do less of. I think Mike said it earlier, is the curiosity. I find myself these days remaining more curious than I do creating my own story and creating my own reality. That was a big conversation we had early on. It was about, being careful not to create your own reality, but remain curious to find out what it is that is truly going on, from not just your lens, but from multiple lenses all around you, from 360 degrees around you. And going to that with an approach of humility and how can I better myself and learn through that, instead of just, well, they don't understand me. It was more of a servant-hearted, transformational leadership approach than it was just an exercise.
I find this fascinating. You apparently put your ego on the shelf. Maybe you never even had one.
No, I had one.
Oh, okay.
I had one.
Because you said be vulnerable. And I don't know a whole lot of people that get that and say, oh, he's a softie now. But it's not the case. I'm trying to bring that point that you can be vulnerable and be a great leader and not be a softie and still be extremely in charge, but realize it's your people who are going to actually carry the weight of the business, not always just you.
Right.
You don't have to have all the answers, right?
How can you? Yeah, well, that's number one. Is I don't have all the answers, and I'm never going to. So I love watching my team actually come up with the answers that I don't have, or walking them to find the answers. But how can you ever plan to grow or elevate if you don't approach it with curiosity and vulnerability? And it's not. We've spent a lot of time with our team developing the relationships where vulnerability is something that is actually admired and appreciated inside of our organization. And how can we invite feedback, criticism in a compassionate, loving way that allows growth for everybody? And the magic and beauty inside of that, when that starts happening, and how when you can sit across the table from somebody, like we had a team meeting yesterday with my leadership team, and just said, you're not executing, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing right now, you are not in a good spot. And to get a text message at 9:00 last night, thanks for pulling me out of that. It's that to me is, I mean, that's everything. I mean, that's what I want and what I need as a CEO, and that's what's fueling me these days to become better every single day. So it has to be the approach. It's the only way to approach it, in my opinion.
I think, Dan, that I had no idea that you were so much of a marshmallow, the softest shop owner that I've ever met. Which is funny, because if you know him, that's like as far from the truth as it could possibly be. But I think that, when we were getting to know ourselves, like setting our own vision, before I had a little bit of success, before joining the CEO group. And now I realize, it just feels like I was looking back, fumbling around in the dark, and once in a while, boom, there's an acorn. And different than other groups, we're not doing our homework the night before a meeting, we're living this stuff every day, and our teams are living it with us every day. And we're all committed to, to these concepts that we're learning. And indeed, the relationships, not only am I figuring out what it is that I want, we're figuring out together what it is that each teammate wants. We had a big discussion yesterday. There's a young guy that says, hey, I think I'd be a better fit in the office than turning wrenches. And I walked in, and, three of the guys are having a conversation about how to integrate this guy into the office. And I wasn't part of it. And I stuck my head in the room and I just said hi. And they didn't even ask me for any input. And it's great because they all have better information on that particular thing than I do. It's just an example of, the way it works. And, everybody is much more purposeful in what they're doing. And so it's just it's been a real virtuous thing, I think.
Scott, that reminds me, the old Dan. I don't know if it's the old Dan of the past. He used to just. I've used this with another shop. This term of make it say uncle. We used to just strong arm whatever the initiative was, and whatever we wanted to we willed it and submitted it to whatever we wanted to do, and it just to the point where it said uncle. It didn't matter if it was we're going to go to digital inspections, we're going to do engagement, we're just going to make it say uncle, and it was exhausting. It was exhausting.
How about the Roman warrior? The Roman warrior comes out from meeting Caesar and he puts his hand across his chest and he says, "So it shall be, so it shall be written." Right? I mean, that's how it was.
Yeah. There's a better way.
I love the curiosity factor. I've called it my whole life being a perpetual student. But I love the curiosity piece of that. I would almost add it to this little quote that I've always had, always wanting to learn. And I think the desire to learn comes from curiosity, which is so cool. Guys, this has been just great so far. All kinds of great learning here. So here's my question. Scott, as we did an episode with you on a COO, Mike, does everyone in the CEO group need a COO, or is that part of the evolution of the team in your group?
So the real answer is yes and yes. So the reality is not every foundational entrepreneur who's trying to elevate themselves and rise to the functionality and the touch point of a CEO necessarily has the organization below them that's exactly on that sequence. So we've had CEOs come into the group that thought they had somebody that was primed to be their operational leader. We've been able to figure out pretty quickly with some of the tools that Dan mentioned earlier, where some of the blind spots and the hazards might be in that. And we've had some people that have needed to switch some roles. But the reality is that all of our CEOs have developed some level of operational leadership within their organization, whether that is a technically announced individual operations leader or an operational level team in the case of some of the multi-shop organizations. And it really is important because going back to this idea of the difference between strategy and vision and execution and tactics, they really occur at two very, very different levels. And the two should really be very careful of the way that they intermingle, right? Because then it drops back into what Dan's talking about, which is let me just make it say uncle. I've got a vision, here's what we're going to do, and now I'm going to go down into the organization and just break wrists until they submit and do it. And one of the biggest things that we see in that phenomena is that oftentimes we have incredibly powerful launches, execution, and then failure, right? We have no staying power. We have no longevity in the things that we're trying to accomplish, whether that's initiatives or, just general, growth trajectory. And that's often because of that intermingling. The intermingling brings that ownership, that CEO mentality, down into operations, and it becomes a strong arm. We're not always the best prepared, nor do we have the time or the patience to be the best executor, implementer within the business. As a matter of fact, from a true personality profile point of view, two completely different skill sets, two completely different behavioral profiles between that of a visionary CEO style mentality and that of the operations leader. And so what we have seen in all of our very successful COO shops is the evolution and the rising of some level of that command and control at the tactical level, at that operations level. And that really, quite honestly, I think, both Dan and Scott would acknowledge, becomes the secret sauce, right? It's the intermingling point between, again, vision and strategy and tactics. And then, what we do is the other half that we've not really spoken about yet is, the other half of our program, which we try and make a little bit more holistic, is that we then go down and we deal with the COOs and really try and coach and mentor them and give them a room to be in, so that they can learn how to develop tactical executions, capabilities, and be better at getting that level of buy-in and staying power and the management skills that are necessary to really achieve high-end visionary success. So a bit of a long-winded answer of really kind of saying it's part of what's necessary when you're really trying to elevate the functionality of that organization. And both Scott and Dan have different COO, operational level leadership structures, but the impact point with the business is still very much the same.
To me, to kind of speak on this a little bit too, and the title COO I've never been one who's subscribed much to the titles of the position. We spend all of our time focusing on what is your role in the organization and how can you best execute your role and what are the tools to equip your role. Titles are earned in our organization, and they really, at the end of the day, if you're not living your role and working inside of your role and how it best serves the company and the people that are your direct report to's, the title doesn't really matter. So we can kind of massage it and move it and have more luxury of focus inside of roles where they know exactly what their target is, what their lane is, and we can keep people in their lane so that they have that focus on what it is that they're trying to execute.
And I think what Mike alluded to, how Dan and I's COOs are different, and the roles that we carve for them are a little bit different. And that's I think the way with all of the COOs in the group is, but they're getting the functions done. And, everybody, you've got to be flexible. And I love what you said, Dan, that, what's your role in the organization? I've never been a big title guy, but I'll tell you, Chris, my COO, I don't know, maybe it was a week, he had some new business cards made up with his new title on it. And so I thought that was like pretty cool buy-in on it. But it's it's neat because we've learned the job functions that we have to do leading the organization, and then the job functions that need to be handled to operationally take care of the organization. And they've all got to get done. And I really do think it's better to have a separation between the two. And Chris has allowed us to do that in my organization. And it doesn't mean that my way is right, but somehow, and it seems like it's working for all of us that are in the room. We're finding our way, and it's just getting better and better.
A question, guys. Now knowing you guys broke the code that you're working with the COOs, Mike, am I right? Didn't you say that?
Yep.
Are they a subset of this group? Or do they meet together as an entire COO, CEO team? Do they meet separately? How does that function?
They actually do meet separately, but one of the things that we've tried to do within the program is really align the focus and the content of where the CEOs are. So in other words, what they're working on, what they're developing, what they're communicating, what they're envisioning. Then what we do is our COOs are encouraged, as Scott says, they live this stuff in between sessions. This is not homework you try and cram. You go back to your shop after a meeting or some sort of a get together, and we just go back to business as usual. And then 2 days before the meeting, oh my goodness, I've got a bunch of stuff I got to do to be ready. They're going back and living and implementing and changing and really trying to evolve their organization. And so what we do is, as that message is being communicated down, we're working with the COOs on a very similar track so that they can accept that vision, those statements, and bring it forward at a tactical level. Now let's work on how we execute and push this stuff through our organization to actually get staying power and improvement. So it is very much a coordinated, but they're not having to meet together. We keep those rooms very separate. Those interactions occur back in the business, which, again, at the organizational level, that's really, Dan, I know spoke about it earlier, is the power of their leadership meetings and the place where, Dan's able to take those, those thoughts and concepts, the visions, and disseminate them himself. We're not trying to do that with them or for them. It's really the CEO's role, to kind of own that dissemination.
I think it's important too to give our number twos or COOs air to breathe, space. If Scott and I are in the same room with our COOs, we're naturally just going to suck the air right out of that room, right? And they're not going to be as effective if we give them their own space and their own room to work on their initiatives. Obviously, our initiatives have to intersect, but it almost, it sounds like you got to spend time in a room together in a group setting, but it almost works against that in a lot of ways, because it's Scott and guys like me and Scott, naturally we want to be part of the conversation, and our number twos will love sitting back and hearing and listening to us, but it never gives them a chance to have a voice. So we have to be really careful of that when we're leading. Make sure that they have the space to have a voice.
Let them lead.
Right.
Hey guys, wow. Beyond my expectations. Thank you. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll put a bow on this and do our next segment. Hey, how much paper have you touched today? Those are piles of time stacked all over the shop. And I think of what you could do with that time and how many more cars you could get through the door. Cha-ching. Yeah, cha-ching. It's time for a digital shop management system on the web at getshopware.com. Running a busy shop can be a challenge with Broadly's web chat feature. You can respond to a customer's question right on your phone anywhere at any time. Be in touch with your customer inquiries with Broadly at getbroadly.com/chat. I do want to go around the room and put a bow on this and continue to encourage our industry, as I call what I do, advancing the aftermarket, to find what that next level is. But Mike, how has leading this CEO group helped you?
It's been incredibly empowering to me. Just as we've kind of talked about earlier, the big charge here is as leaders, we have to be able to elevate ourselves so that our organization has room to grow. And it's been no different, for myself personally, within the ATI organization, as we've created, elevation in some of the services and some of the opportunities that we're able to provide, to the automotive aftermarket. What we've seen is organizationally, the rest of the staff, the rest of the coaching conversations are all elevating into this space. The natural curiosities that are created because of the conversations that we're having, again, permeates throughout the organization. So just as our CEOs are seeing a tremendous amount of evolution and growth through their organizations, we really get a very similar benefit. It really is humbling for us as an organization, but more importantly, continues to really encourage us and energize us in trying to find the new and innovative places that we can, as a training and coaching company, elevate our game to make sure that we've got the best opportunities available for our members. So it's been an absolute win-win for all that have been involved.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Guys, I'm more sold than ever before. Mike, I know we had a great episode when I was at Super Conference. Just go to my website, type in Mike Bennett with 2 T's there at the end, because every once in a while I drop a T.
We've all been known to drop something.
and check out that, which is inspired me to have this panel on. I have learned so much and really realized that even if I'm in a 20 group and I'm learning, I'm not learning about me and my role. I'm more learning about the business and the processes, although it's highly important. I get it. But sometimes it seems to me that you can develop and create better processes and better people if you become a better CEO. Scott, I'll give you the last word. Help wrap this up.
What you said, I think, is just pretty much you could have had a drop the mic moment. But I would say, like I said at the very beginning, this doesn't compete with the 20 groups. It doesn't compete with the regular weekly coaching. Although now my coaching goes to the COO instead of to me, because that's the level it needs to go to. This makes it better. There's not a chance that, learning new things and being exposed to new ideas, and honestly being exposed to a bunch of shop owners that are way smarter than I am, is going to do anything other than help Cardinal and Level 5 be the best shops that we can be. And you mentioned something about, continuing education, being a lifelong learner. That's like one of the basics of being a CEO is continually trying to improve yourself. And so I just say, thanks to everyone, for the leaders, the members of the CEO group. Thank you, Carm, for having us on. And I would give my firmest recommendation to anyone that has an opportunity to join a group, with a leader like Mike, with people in the group like Dan, jump on that, because it is a wonderful opportunity.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Dan, how about you?
Well, my biggest takeaways through my journey of going through this program was, be real with yourself. Don't create your own reality. Spend time asking for feedback, remaining curious, not just from the people inside of your organization, but your peers out there that you have relationships to, whether that's in a 20 group, coaches, friends, colleagues, organizations that you work with outside of your own organization, to ask them, how can I be better? What areas can I be stronger and be better in? And if you approach that with humility, with being vulnerable, and you take that and you grow and you learn from that, you can raise the ceiling on anywhere that you're frustrated, and watch your organization, watch your personal life, watch your professional life just grow exponentially through that. Find the tools.
Thanks so much, Dan. Mike, I was always conflicted through much of the training that I've gotten over the years, that I was told that a CEO asks questions that they know the answer to. And then I learned that CEOs need to ask questions so they can formulate ideas and opinions. Which way do you think on that?
It's absolutely the latter. Great CEOs are humble enough to understand. Not only do they not know the most, they're not even equipped to know the most within their organization, and that's probably one of the most liberating epiphanies that we hope that most CEOs are able to experience. Right, when you're no longer shackled by, I've got to be the smartest person in the room, and it's my job to have my finger on every level and make every decision. As Dan said earlier, I mean, that's exhausting. It's not only exhausting, but it's it ultimately limits your organization. So, I truly believe that the great CEOs, realize that they have an incredible responsibility within their organization, but that responsibility is really about being curious. It's about being willing to acknowledge the places that they're weak, and really seek out those people and that information that can help fill in the gaps and make the total package stronger. So, great CEOs are always seeking out knowledge and trying to improve themselves and trying to improve their team, whether that's through, great acquisition of talent, or great acquisition of tools and resources and training that can help elevate great people even higher.
Well, what a great bow that you put on this episode. Thank you so much, Mike. Thanks for pulling this together and for all that you're doing to create better CEOs in our beloved industry. Mike Bennett, ATI shop owner, Mike's Cars, Gettysburg, PA, with his wife Shelley, and the leader of the ATI CEO group, Dan Garlock, president and CEO of Silver Lake Automotive, and Scott Brown, Cardinal Shell, Springfield, Virginia. Guys, thanks for being here. I appreciate it so much.